popular tourist location for Americans because of its proximity to the U.S. border, lax laws, and overall reputation for debauchery. Hundreds of American tourists flock into Tijuana all year long looking to take part in Tijuana's vibrant nightlife, particularly Tijuana's Zona Norte neighborhood, one of the largest red light districts in all of North America. Known for its brothels, which present themselves in public as strip clubs and bars, and also its highly commercialized street prostitution. There are various consequences of Tijuana's sex tourism trade, such as safety concerns and a general culture of exploitation. But because of the demand from American tourists, there are financial benefits and opportunities for Mexican nationals. While sex tourism goes against what is typically ethically and socially accepted in Mexican and American cultures, Tijuana takes advantage of this long-lasting and thriving industry to boost their economy. So for our documentary, we decided to explore the ethical, social, and economic ramifications of Tijuana's sex tourism trade.
The history of sex tourism in Tijuana dates back decades. Tijuana's sex tourism industry grew from 1908 to 1935, but quickly declined when the U.S. repealed its prohibition laws. It has been regulated since 1885 when local business people realized they could use this as an attraction for foreigners and create an industry from it. As investors developed businesses specified for this tourism, the impoverished population of Mexico and surrounding areas started relocating to border towns, especially Tijuana, in search of the opportunity for quick money. Today, Tijuana has become a tourist-reliant border city. Every business owner there, and equally every prostitute, is dependent on tourist income for survival. When tourism is down, the local economy struggles. Border towns have a larger demand for sex tourism because of the convenience from San Diego to El Paso. Tourists visit Tijuana as a destination for a pleasure trip, whether it's for alcohol, cheap goods, or the ease of prostitution. Prostitution is a legal and legitimate employment in the city of Tijuana and throughout the state of Baja California. In Tijuana, prostitution has long been tolerated in the Zona Norte, where there is a zone of tolerance. This designated area permits strip bars and bars that are brothels with hotels either attached physically to the clubs or with separate entrances and a couple of streets for prostitutes to walk and advertise their services. In these zones of tolerance, sex workers must register with the municipal health departments and carry a health card to prove they receive regular medical examinations and that they are disease-free. Some reports have suggested that about as half of female sex workers are registered. While prostitution in Mexico is legal under federal law, each of the 31 states decides its own prostitution laws and policies. And although it is regulated and controlled, police often take bribes to look the other way, and there has been much debate on legalizing prostitution throughout the country. To compare, there are an estimated 40 to 50,000 unregistered sex workers in Mexico City, while there are nearly 5,000 registered and an unknown number of unregistered prostitutes in Tijuana. It is difficult to gather accurate information on sex work because of the intimate nature of the topic and the underdeveloped documentation system. Violence, or the threat of violence, is a common consequence that comes along with sex work. In Tijuana Zona Norte, the drug cartels have business interests and members or associates of drug gangs who often visit the bars. This makes the area high risk for outbursts of violence despite the presence of military and police. Other dangers are drug use, drug addiction, diseases, exploitations, and more. Although federal law criminalizes corruption of minors, it is punishable by 5 to 10 years in prison. Trafficking of women and minors for prostitution still remains a grave problem, often because of the collaboration or knowledge of the police. The government reportedly identified 429 sex trafficking victims in 2017. This is not surprising considering that Tijuana has become a destination for sex tourists and pedophiles, particularly from the United States.
The U.S. Department of Justice has made combating sex trafficking a top priority, pouring resources into stopping it in San Diego and along the U.S.-Mexico border. But Tijuana Zona Norte, a mere 20 miles away from downtown San Diego, has made Tijuana a premier world destination for those looking to buy sex. Teenagers as young as 13 are being bought and sold as sex slaves by the hundreds in our region, according to federal law enforcement on both sides of the border. A University of San Diego study measuring the nature and extent of gang involvement in sex trafficking in the San Diego region estimate that these illegal activities generate up to $810 million a year for these criminal enterprises. This year, San Diego is ranked the 8th area of highest intensity for commercial sexual exploitation in the nation. And experts estimate that there can be up to 8,108 sex trafficking victims per year in San Diego alone. As part of our research, we spoke to development coordinator Rachel Devine of Generate Hope, a faith-based organization providing long-term comprehensive housing and recovery programs to young women who have been sexually trafficked. She told us that in the decade of saving women from sex trafficking, the center had only had one victim from Mexico. That is not to say that the border is a non-factor in the high rates of sex trafficking in our region. Transborder criminal networks are involved in trafficking minors and adults between Mexico and the U.S., but domestic sex trafficking cases typically stay in the country where they originated. Only about 20% of domestic sex trafficking cases involve the border, according to San Diego County District Attorney Summer Seffin. The vast majority, the other 80%, involve girls from the U.S. being trafficked in the U.S. by gangs and other criminal organizations.
I was a detective doing this stuff for 2.5 years, and now I've been here as a supervisor for 1 year, and I have never heard of anybody going down there for that purpose.
Yeah.
And it's because it's so prevalent here.
Yeah.
It's basically, for us to catch one of these girls doing it this year, it's a needle in the haystack. Because I could show you, and I'm happy to do so, like where these girls are posting and the websites they're using, and you could scroll through and see the time frames, and that every 30 seconds a new ad is popping up throughout the entire San Diego County. And so for us to look at one day of traffic on a certain website for girls that are posting for prostitution type activities, it is, I mean, you're going to have 7,000 different postings. So we can't, I mean, there's us, right? So we're only maybe 10 detectives right now. And then you have San Diego PD Vice, which is 5 or 6 detectives, maybe a little bit more, that do these types of operations.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much it in the entire county that go after these types of crimes. So
there's a lot of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So you have 2 teams, maybe 20 people total, to find 7,000 times girls are posting a day, and that's I'm making that number up, but a lot, all throughout the entire county.
Yeah.
So there's no real need to go to Mexico
right.
to do it, because you can do it in your own backyard and probably make more money here.
Yeah.
They don't make nearly as much. I think it's like $20 for sex in TJ.
Yeah.
Here, it depends on how long in time frame, anywhere from $60 to $300.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, I've never seen anybody go south for that purpose. In terms of the girls. The guys, absolutely, the demand is there. Everybody knows that's, guys go down there for that. There's not a whole lot we can do about it.
Buying or selling children for sex is not legal anywhere, but the problem is rampant in both Tijuana and San Diego. District Attorney Hector Orozco prosecutes cases of child trafficking. He states that the trafficking of minors is clandestine and happens in hotels and houses, which makes the work of prosecuting perpetrators that much harder. Since 2011, Orozco and his investigative team have rescued 246 child sex trafficking victims and prosecuted 116 traffickers. But Tijuana Zona Norte remains a destructive problem.
The U.S. Department of Justice defines child sex trafficking as the requirement, harboring, transportation, provision, obtaining, patronizing, or soliciting of a minor for the purpose of a commercial sex act. This definition, as the name indicates, emphasizes in the minor, specifically in people who are under 18 years old. According to the U.S. Department of Justice, children are the more vulnerable to be manipulated by their perpetrator because the mind of a child is simpler than an adult. They only need food, attention, or even only small samples of affection that make the child think that the trafficker is good with them. This would make it easier to introduce them into the sex traffic without their knowledge about what are they really doing. The possibilities of child sex trafficking are increasing, especially here in TJ, where it is known as the nucleus of child sex tourism in Mexico. In the northern part of this country, there have been many cases of child sex trafficking, but in the last few years there has been one that was very relevant. Back in 2016, the FBI arrested a former American seminarian who was looking through online platforms to have sex with minors in TJ. Once arrested in the Mexican city, federal agents found among their belongings two mobile phones and a suitcase with baby clothes, sleeping pills, bottles, candy, toys, and intimate lubricant. The same report indicates that accordingly to the testimonies of some minors who have managed to get away from the control of the traffickers, the meeting points between the pedophiles and the victims are some of the cafes with internet access that are located throughout TJ. As in this case, there are many who unfortunately have not been discovered in time. Children are the most vulnerable human beings because their capability for resonating has not been entirely developed. Even an adult person going through all these traumas can never fully recover from this situation. So, what can we expect from a child? This is one of the reasons why child sex trafficking is very difficult and delicate to deal with, either for the police, the government, or the scholars.
Regardless of what you may hear, most sex workers in TJ's Red District are not there by choice. District Attorney Summer Steffen says that women are mostly controlled by their pimps and can't escape the lifestyle even if it is legal. Pimps are constantly monitoring sex workers and making sure they're not talking to the police or anyone that can offer them the few resources available to help them out of this lifestyle. For women working in the industry, there are very few resources available if clients do abuse them. Police almost never take rape allegations by sex workers seriously, and many citizens of Tijuana openly harass them on the street. The legality and regulation of sex work in Tijuana doesn't change the fact that the industry runs on the degradation, domination, and exploitation of women and children. That's not prostitution, it's sex trafficking. Even still, tourists from the United States still visit Tijuana for all the privileges and freedoms their money can buy.
Debido a la frontera con San Diego, Tijuana se ha convertido en el centro del turismo sexual, en donde las prácticas ilegales, como la pederastía, están a la orden del día. Después de los incontables casos de homicidio en la ciudad de Tijuana, la trata de personas es el delito más grave que opera el crimen organizado en esa zona. De acuerdo con Hispan TV, la Organización de las Naciones Unidas encendió los focos rojos en Tijuana y Mexicali por ser las preferidas para operar redes con el tráfico de personas. A tan solo unos metros de la línea que divide a México de Estados Unidos se encuentra la zona norte, también conocida como el barrio rojo de la ciudad, donde las prácticas ilícitas circulan libremente, especialmente en la calle Coahuila. La mayoría de los clientes que llegan a esta zona son turistas estadounidenses, motivo por el cual la Oficina Federal de Investigación de los Estados Unidos siguió la pista de un par de ciudadanos que solían visitar Tijuana con fines sexuales ilícitos. A partir de la investigación, la agencia reveló el modus operandi de los traficantes de personas en la frontera norte. Un intermediario se encargaba de contactar a pederastas con los traficantes a través de redes sociales. Enviaban fotografías de menores de edad en posiciones sugerentes a modo de catálogos digitales, acompañadas de mensajes provocativos que simulaban estar escritos por las víctimas. La averiguación no solo permitió encontrar los pormenores de la correspondencia virtual entre el cliente y el traficante, sino también identificar los requerimientos de edad de la próxima víctima, los puntos de encuentro como los hoteles, que consienten la pederastía e inclusive nuevos hallazgos. Es decir, niños recientemente raptados que ya eran ofrecidos como mercancía. Un reportaje hecho por The San Diego Union Tribune da cuenta de la gravedad de la situación que se vive en el barrio rojo de Tijuana, pues de acuerdo con cifras de la Comisión Nacional de Seguridad, México ocupa el 5º lugar internacional en tráfico de personas. Eso quiere decir que muchas de las personas que son explotadas sexualmente en Tijuana son mexicanas, pues se ha vuelto una práctica común que víctimas del suroeste de México sean comercializadas en el centro del país, para luego ser trasladadas hacia el norte. Por su parte, María Alegret, oficial de cooperación internacional de la Oficina de Naciones Unidas contra la Droga y el Delito, dice que el turismo sexual en Tijuana se ha visto beneficiado principalmente por su situación geográfica, debido a que la cercanía con los Estados Unidos también influye en el consumo de víctimas y sus servicios, tanto mexicanas como centroamericanas. Pese a que en México ya se está combatiendo la trata de personas con fines de esclavitud sexual, aún queda mucho por hacer en las entidades que se encuentran más allá del centro del país, como es el caso de Tijuana.
According to the United Nations Global Report on Trafficking of Persons, 1 in 3 human trafficking victims is a child, and most victims are female. There are an estimated 9,000 female sex workers in Tijuana. The median age for female sex work entry is approximately 14 years old. Young girls that enter sex work are susceptible to post-traumatic stress disorder, anxiety, depression, HIV, and other sexually transmitted diseases, along with issues with reproductive health. Experiences that leave young girls susceptible to sex trafficking include child abuse and domestic violence. In reference to a study done by UC San Diego determining the vulnerability factors and pathways leading to underage entry into sex work, women reported that instances of child abuse and domestic violence within their family led them to run away from home during childhood. Other vulnerability factors include parental substance abuse, thus leading to physical and emotional neglect. Female sex workers also reported that homelessness was a factor that left them vulnerable to sex trafficking because of their inability to find employment due to their young age. 60% of female sex workers also stated that they were forced into sex work. Although Tijuana has tolerance areas where commercial sex work is legal, sex work permits are unavailable to minors, leading to further exploitation. Female sex workers reported that experiencing teenage pregnancy incites domestic disagreements, thus leading to economic hardships. Some female sex workers reported entry to sex work to care for their children or relieve financial hardships, while others were forced into work by their partners. Sex workers can be recruited multiple ways. According to the study, Women Pullers, Pimping and Sex Trafficking in a Border City by Sheldon Zhang, both male and female pimps are responsible for recruitment and bringing the workers to customers. Because of Tijuana's large amount of commerce and tourism, the sex industry continues to prosper and is an ideal location for sex trafficking. Some female pimps were sex workers in the past and with their prior experience were able to run their own business. On the contrary, most male pimps claim that their involvement with sex trafficking began through a friend, family, or associate who was already in the business. Approximately 71% of pimps in this study stated they work with strip club owners to recruit women for sex work, while others claim they utilize persuasion and flirting. In some cases, exotic dancers that work in Tijuana clubs are utilized to refer their friends or other women to gain access to sex work. Pimps recruit and exploit women and children by receiving referral fees and commission from their sex worker services.
Well, I go to get prostitutes mainly because I guess the control, like to feel empowered, like I said, like to feel that I'm in control of whatever it is that I want to do. And not just that, but it's super close to home. It's pretty accessible and it's fairly cheap. You know what I mean? It goes like you get there and you kind of start eyeballing, you know, and sometimes once you walk in, some of them will start like touching you on your shoulder or like whatever to get your attention, you know what I mean? And like I said, prices vary from, like, for example, if you're in the VIP section, they go from $60 to $80, give or take. If you're like down on the floor, they're anywhere from 40 to 60. And if you're outside, that's the ones that they either didn't make a killing that night or whatever, and they need some money to take home, so they go for like anywhere from 15 to 30 bucks. You know what I mean? They get really cheap at that point. And I mean, they always carry around condoms and stuff, so it's I feel like it's obviously not risk free. because there's always a risk. You know what I mean? It could be a faulty condom, it could be a cheap condom, whatever. I mean, but do I feel, like you asked me, do I feel bad at the end? No, I don't. But it's their job. They decided to do that, and especially in Mexico, finding a job is not that easy. And even if you do have a job, it's probably not well paid. You know, so it's it ultimately, it oftentimes pushes women to do those type of activities. And I mean, it's the process of it. You just go, you pay, you find the one you like, you go to the hotel room, you know, you guys get like half an hour or whatever, and that's it. You know, you pay, and